Hey GMS, this is Miss Tara, your Family and Consumer Sciences teacher. I know most of you know me, but our incoming 6th graders haven't seen my face much yet. So today in our video, I want to show you how to sew scrunchies. Scrunchies are super easy and super fun. You can hand sew them or you can machine sew them. So they're very versatile. In order to sew our scrunchies today, you are going to need some fabric, some pins, a nice pair of scissors, needle, thread, a ruler, very important, and some elastic. And with just these materials, you can make yourself a scrunchie. Or 4 like I did this morning for fun. Let me just pop this one in my hair so I can show you all. So retro, guys. I love a good scrunchie. How cute are these? Without further ado, let's get in the video. Alright guys, step 1 to make your scrunchies is to cut your fabric into 3.5 inch by 24 inch long strips. Once you've done that, you can move on to step 2, which is to iron your fabric in half. If you are making more than one scrunchie, go ahead and iron all of your fabric now so that you can unplug your fabric and put it away. Alright, step number 3 is to iron the edges of your fabric. So you want to open up the fabric you just folded in half with the wrong side facing up at you. And fold the edges over as you see me doing here and iron them. You want to fold them about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch. Not too much because it'll make your scrunchie very small and hard to get the elastic into. So once you've completed the first 3 steps to making your scrunchies, this is what your fabric should look like. Pretty neat. Let's move on to step number 4. Step number 4, fold and pin fabric inside out. Inside out being the key words here, guys. You're gonna have to flip the fabric and fold it along that pressed seam that we created earlier. So go ahead and flip it, and then you want to pin it together. I start by pinning it together in the middle and working my way out. And the reason I do this is because we are going to pin along the entire edge of the open seam excluding the last 2 inches. So I'm going to pin these few pins here, and then I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to measure 2 inches from each end, and I'm going to put a pin 2 inches from each end so I know that I do not sew those first 2 inches. Step 5 is to sew the edges excluding the 2 inches on each end. So now you're going to sew along the open edge so that you make a tube. Be sure not to sew the 2 inches on each end, and don't sew your tubes closed. Once you've sewn your tubes, they should look like this. Just along the edge that was open. And remember, don't sew the ends or the 2 inches. Step 6 is to flip your fabric right side out. You need a safety pin for this. You're going to clip the safety pin through one end and wiggle it through the tube down to the other side, maneuvering it on top of itself as you wiggle it through. That was really confusing, but you can see in the video what I'm doing here. You just want to work the safety pin from one end to the other end so that you flip your tube right side out. This is what your scrunchie tubes should look like once you've turned them right side out. Once you have completed that step, you will move on to step number 7, which is to pin your ends together. So that 2 inches that you didn't sew is going to open up like a fan. You're going to put the 2 fan pieces of your tube together, right sides touching, and then you're going to pin that together like so. So once you've pinned all of those ends together, it's time for step 8. Sew your ends together. So right along the end of the fan section, you will sew a seam, and it will look just like this. You can see a little bit on that one, but on this one you can see because I used some black thread so you could see it. So just like that, you are going to sew. Once you have sewn that, you can then pop it open and you'll see that it kind of naturally just folds right under. Pretty sweet. Now go ahead and grab your elastic and your ruler, because step 9 is to cut your elastic into 6.5-inch strips. Just ignore my giant head here getting in the way. I clearly couldn't read the ruler and had to get below the camera to check it all out. So measure 6.5 inches, go ahead, cut that elastic. Step 10, feed elastic into the fabric. So for this part, you're going to need 2 safety pins. Your first safety pin needs to go through the end of one piece of elastic, and then your second piece needs to clip the elastic onto the fabric so that as you pull it through your scrunchie tube, the elastic doesn't get lost inside. You can see here that pushing the elastic through the tube is very similar to how we flipped the fabric tube right side out. So you just want to take that safety pin and push it through the tube and pull it all the way around, just like I've done here. Once you've done that, you can then remove your safety pins, but make sure you have a good grip on that elastic, otherwise it's going to get stuck inside that tube. Once you have a good grip on both ends of your elastic, it's time for step 11, which is to sew the elastic together. If you're afraid you're going to drop the elastic and it's going to get stuck inside your tube, go ahead and stick a pin in it. And once you've sewn your elastic, you then have scrunchies that look like this. They've got a hole in them, so we've got to clean up that hole. So step 12 is to sew together your last seam. So go ahead and pin that seam together and sew right along the seam. Once you've done that, you then have completed your scrunchie. Woohoo! Congratulations. Look at these. How cute are they? Guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We still have sewing kits available for checkout if you'd like to make your own mask. At this time, I don't have kits to check out to make scrunchies, but if you're dying to make a scrunchie, you can go ahead and email me and I'll see what I can do. But remember, we got plenty of mask kits to check out. So please go ahead and grab a kit and sew your own face mask so that we can be prepared and ready to return to school with our masks. Have a great day, guys. Yeah.
Are you making a video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you need to come in?
No.
Okay, I'll come visit you in a little bit.
Text me later.
Okay. That was Miss Humphrey interrupting. Outtake number 1. Scrunchy. So, without further ado, let's get in the video. I'm an idiot. Let me go get that. I'm super excited to make this video as soon